All right, today we are going to be exploring dots or stippling. These are some pretty common textures that can be applied in any manner of inking, and honestly, one of those kind of notorious techniques. Anytime we had to do this in school, or anytime I was teaching this lesson, I would inevitably hear other people in the room sigh and moan because if you do this on a large scale, it can take an egregious amount of time to do things. So I'm going to go through 4 different techniques or ways that you can use dots and stippling in your pen and ink drawings that are not going to be so demanding, but are going to add some different things to your drawings that are going to make them a little bit more effective. And as we get started, let me know in the comments if you have ever done large-scale drawings using nothing but tiny little dots, and tell me about the pain that was. All right, let's dive in. So the first strategy that I want to employ and talk about is actually not using stippling or dots alone. It's actually using the dots as an overlay after you've already put some of your texture or your hatching down. This is probably the one that I use the most commonly because it does this wonderful thing where the dots themselves kind of fill in these pieces and components. They apply additional textures. They almost seem to indicate that the ink you are using is much more of an old school inking strategy, where maybe the paper is not perfect. There's little dots and, tarnished components of the paper itself. Maybe your ink is dripping or it's just not 100% consistent. This is kind of a fun strategy for doing things. So I'm going to go ahead and get my hatching kind of done here. Just a pretty quick, interesting layer. And then we're going to start going in with our dots. And the first thing right off the top is you will probably notice I don't make all of my stippling dots exactly the same size. Don't worry, we will try that on the next one that we have, and we'll see what that looks like, because every one of these techniques has its place. But overlaying these dots on top of hatching will create a really lovely texture, and will honestly just make it feel like it's a lot higher effort than it actually is. You don't have to be perfect in how you lay these down. In fact, you can actually use these to regulate imperfections that went down in the first layer with the hatching. So this is probably the most common way I use it. I like throwing this on in the final stages of my drawing. It just applies an additional kind of texture and makes things look a little bit more visually interesting. So that's actually the first stippling, and that's just what I'm going to call overlay. Now the next one is going to be just a single size of stippling. So we are going to use this Micron 01, and we are going to not do a whole lot of this. We're going to do just a lot of this. So let's go in. This is the strategy that is probably most commonly understood as stippling or using dots, and it is the one that is fairly infamous. And this is pretty much entirely because of the amount of time that is associated with this technique. As you can tell, I have zoomed in pretty close on the drawings today because I did not want to spend half an hour on each of these. I want to do them pretty quickly so that you who are watching can see and benefit from the strategy before I slowly lose my mind trying to do it. There is something to be said for this being a really relaxing and monotonous strategy. So if you like things like shading large portions of background, if you like knitting or crocheting in a way where it's mostly just something to occupy your hands, this kind of drawing can be stress relieving in that same manner. I often find that I have more of that feeling when it comes to hatching, but stippling can certainly scratch that itch as well. So you can see it does start after a minute or two to kind of fill things in. If you want a portion to be darker, you just make more dots there. Perhaps this is an indentation on the stone, and you can kind of keep going around. If you leave large areas white, you can break that up by just putting some more marks in there. If we were going to really go on this, we would probably make sure that there's a lot more of these marks on the bottom, as if this bottom is kind of wrapping or rolling in, and we're going to kind of do a little bit of that here. But this is a pretty simple technique. It takes a lot of time, but it is not particularly complicated. And one of the best parts about it is that because it takes so long, you can often prevent yourself from making unneeded mistakes because you can stop at any point, take a look, make sure it's still accomplishing what you want it to, and then move on if it is. So that's what happens when you do this with a singular size. The technique that I rather enjoy when I'm doing this is to vary my size. So I will make some of these marks like this, some will just be basic dots. I will tend generally to make the bigger marks on the bottom where the shadows are going to be, but not always. There will be some larger ones up in the other portions. And again, this technique I generally will apply with some hatching, but this can be one of the best things you could possibly introduce to a large scene or drawing when you've got tons of hatching marks everywhere, because this is going to stick out and it's going to allow whatever that object is to really contrast everything else. So this can be a wonderful technique that way. And I've talked about it before when it comes to inking. One of the biggest trials, one of the most important things you can do in inking is just making sure that each of your objects, being distinct materials, tones, colors, that they stick out from one another. And stippling and using dots can honestly be one of the best ways to do that. So this one's kind of coming together already, and you can tell right off the bat that varying the size of those dots really does something different. Not every implement will allow this. There are some pens and markers that will fight you when you try to do this, but I find that most can do it in a reasonable fashion. This is generally how I'm going to use it if I'm using this technique. But we should be able to move on to our fourth and final, which is actually just using the dots to tie everything else together. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit shorter video than normal, but most of them end up longer than I expect. So let's go ahead and we're going to work on this stone using a variety of mark making techniques. I'm going to start off with some hatching, just kind of pulling this together. But then almost as if this rock has been chewed up or it's got some aggregate components, we're going to use just some random squiggles here on the bottom to kind of put things together. Some more hatching down here. And it's going to kind of look like a mess when we get to the end, and that's okay. But the goal here is to give ourselves some kind of basic object. And then we are going to use our stippling or our dots to kind of pull everything together. So I'm going to come in here and do a little bit more hatching just to darken this in, but this is pretty awkward looking right now. So let's go ahead and take our dots and we're going to use them to kind of fill things in. So this technique is only kind of a little bit different than the first one where we're doing the overlay. And you'll understand, I think, by the time we reach the end, how it is actually distinct. I think the thing that I'm trying to highlight here is the fact that the individual technique you're using doesn't matter so much. What really matters is the contrast of the individual planes, of how light and dark are being communicated, and how individual things stick out from one another. You can tell already as I'm putting these dots in to fill in these components, it is starting to tie everything together. This rock feels a little bit more lively, a little bit more interesting, because there are a variety of textures on it. And the dots really don't lend themselves to a particular texture. They just kind of reinforce whatever it is that you've got. So here in this aggregate component with all the squiggles, the dots are just kind of filling that out. In and around the straighter lined portions with the hatching, they're just kind of giving the indication that maybe there's some mica or some granite components that are showing out. And they just kind of fill everything in just a little bit more. But the most important thing, perhaps, is what happens when you pull those outside of your initial drawing. The second we start having them out here, it feels as if our object is in an actual real space. It's sitting on something. And this is actually, I think, where I use the dots and stippling the most, is I go back over once I've finished a drawing a little bit, and I just add these kind of messy dots and marks to things. And what that does is that makes it feel as if it's kind of a homogeneous image. You want to have some contrast, yes, to make sure each of your objects are distinct, that they stick out from one another. But at the same time, you want it to feel like it's a concise and inclusive drawing, that the drawing has all these elements that are there and they've been put together with intention and purpose. And sometimes the little dots can help that in a tremendous way. So this has been 4 quick techniques for how you can either utilize dots and stippling or how you can apply them to your drawings already in a way that's going to kind of overlay or tie things together. And I think this is hopefully going to be a lovely strategy for you. Well, as always, thanks for being here. Let me know in the comments if there's something specific you'd like me to focus on next time, or if you have any particular techniques that you like to use when it comes to dots and stippling. All right, have a good one, y'all. See you soon.